Hello and welcome back to Lorcana Villain. My name is Baker and today we'll be taking a look at all of the steel cards from the upcoming Lorcana set, Shimmering Skies. So far we've covered Amber, Sapphire and Amethyst. You may notice I'm wearing the same clothes that I was wearing for the Amethyst video, but it's the same day. It's currently 11:15 PM Wednesday night in the UK. I've got all of tomorrow and then I leave Friday morning. I think it's about 3 o'clock in the morning. I set off to head to Heathrow and then get on a plane to Italy to cast for Disney Lorcana Challenge Italy, which I'm so excited for. But yeah, I'm working really hard to try and get as many of these set reviews done as possible. I'm doing this tonight so I can edit it maybe later, depending on how I'm feeling, or in the morning. And then tomorrow I also need to record the set championship deck lists. And I'm hoping I can also find time to record one more set of reviews to come out on Saturday. I'll just pre-upload it and set it to release over the weekend while I'm away. I'm not promising I'll be able to do that. I may have to wait till next week, but that's the goal. So I want to push on. A quick shout out, as always, to the channel sponsor, Cardmarket. If you're looking for Lorcana singles at competitive rate, please show some love to Cardmarket. But let's take a look at all of the steel cards. Well, we'll take a look at the steel cards very shortly, but in my Amethyst reviews I intended to leave the locations to the end and ended up completely forgetting. So I'm going to start off by just doing the Amethyst locations that I missed in the last video. So we're starting off with Elsa's Ice Palace, Place of Solitude, 3-cost uninkable, 1 to move there, 4 willpower, 1 passive law gain, and Eternal Winter. When you play this character, choose an exerted character. While this location is in play, that character can't ready at the start of their turn. So super cool to get a come into play ability for a location. That's the first time we're getting something like that. And yeah, this ability is cool. It's rare. We do have it on a couple of characters. I think mostly Arnas that have this ability, maybe something else. But yeah, on a location just as soon as you play it is really cool. It's a bit situational, and I think that added on to the fact that it is an uninkable with only 4 willpower, so it's just answered by Fox. It's answered by so much. I don't think this is good enough, unfortunately. I've seen a few content creators rate this quite highly, and hey, maybe I'm wrong. There's definitely going to be misses among my set reviews. There always are. But I don't know, like, it's a situational ability, but maybe it's strong enough that it's still worth it. But I think that added to being uninkable and only 4 willpower. If it was just 5, I feel like just that alone would make me feel a whole lot different about it, just because just that Fox interaction is so important. Plus, again, that's another way of getting around this. Your character can't re-ready. Okay, I bounce it back to my hand. Okay, and again, that's only if you're against an Amethyst deck. But even when you're not against Amethyst, I just think it's quite easy for a lot of decks to hit 4 and then free up their character. I don't think it's doing enough. So, yeah, I'm not a big fan of this one. Mate, I am red in the face. It is boiling hot, mate. Moving on to the library. A Gift for Belle. Very sweet. 3-cost inkable, 1 to move there, 8 willpower, 1 passive law gain, and Lost in a Book. Whenever a character is banished while here, you may draw a card. So this one is pretty interesting. You want to get a turn where you've got a couple of characters down and your opponent's got a couple of characters exerted, and you want to have enough ink to be able to put this down, immediately move a couple of characters there, and then you make trades, but you're drawing cards all the while. That could be such a huge tempo swing. Even just putting this down on 3 on curve isn't always awful, because 8 is a lot of willpower to answer, and the 1 passive law gain in and of itself is pretty interesting. It's going to take a lot of decks a couple of turns to deal with this. Again, potentially opposing Amethyst decks can go turn 3 Fox and then challenge on 4. So, of course, there are ways of doing it, but it's not consistent. Removing this, I mean, I don't think it's going to be consistently easy. And yeah, you can get really good tempo swings off of this. Do you play this as well as Castle, though? I think that's the question. I think this is a good location, but when the Castle's not going anywhere, do we want more? And if we do, is that a conversation to be had about, okay, well, is this something that makes us look at Jim Hawkins again for a location build of Ruby Amethyst? Yeah, pretty interesting. I'm going to say this might see play. Well, I think it will see play. It won't be in every Amethyst deck, but I reckon certain builds, Jim Hawkins' build, will absolutely take advantage of this and could do well. Alright, now we're moving on to Steel, and we'll start off this time with the locations. And first up, we've got Badanon, Villain Support Center. Of course, you know your boy has a place in his heart for this. This absolutely speaks to me. A 3-cost inkable, 2 to move there, 7 willpower, 1 passive law gain, and there's no one I'd rather be than me. Villain characters gain, exert, pay 3 ink, play a character with the same name as this character for free while here. So this is a super interesting ability, akin to something like Hades. Is it Double Dealer? The one from Ursa's Return, the Emerald Forecast, where you exert. But with that, you banish a character to play another one with the same name. You don't have to banish the character in this sense. You just play something else with the same name. So yeah, like very similar-esque effects. So I was having a think about this one, and really, you want to find a turn where you can do as much of this, pay as many of these costs as you can. So it's 3 to put it down, 4, 5 to move a character there, and then 6, 7, 8 for the exert ability. Obviously, you also need to have a character with dry ink, but that shouldn't be too hard to set up. But yeah, 8 ink in 1 turn to put this down, move a character there, and then pay the 3 to play something for free isn't all that impactful, because if you've got 8 ink, you could probably play these characters anyway. This is just helping you extend, and sometimes that's not always going to be the best thing to do. So I was like, okay, you put this down on 3, and then on 5, you want to move a character that you've already put down. So either on turns 1, 2, or 4, the character you put down, you put this down on 3, and then on 5, you pay 2 to move the character you already had down there, and then it can pay 3, exert to play another character of the same name. So we're looking for a villain of 1, 2, or 4 cost that has a big boss version that is worth going through all this. And there just ain't that many, really. Of course, like, one of our restrictions has to be Steel. So from Steel, we could have a turn 1 Captain Hook that on our turn 5, we could then for free play a Captain the Jolly Roger or a Thinking a Happy Thought. And of course, if we're paired with Ruby, there are a couple more Captain Hooks there, but I think 5 is the highest level. Or on turn 2, we could have put down Jafar. So on our Villain and on turn, we could play a Jafar Dreadnought, or if we decide to team with Amethyst as well as Steel, then of course there's a couple more Jafar options in there. If we're paired with Ruby, there's a Queen of Hearts, a 2-drop, and we could cheat out this Capricious Monarch, this 7-drop on 5 if you want. This Namari is potentially an interesting one compared with the 9-cost Namari in this set that we're going to look at in this video. So we'll come back to her when we get to that card. But yeah, overall my point being that all this setup just ain't really worth it. Of course, you go through all the other colours and work out who's got a 1, 2 or a 4-drop with a big boss that's worth cheating out. But it's an awful lot of setup. At some point in the game's lifespan, I'm sure there will be something that makes this worth setting up and worth including. I don't think the time is now. It might not be for a long while, but it's a really unique effect that at some point I'm sure will be broken. And now Steel's other location, we have 7 Dwarves Mine, Secure Fortress, 2-cost inkable, 2 to move there, 6 willpower, 1 passive law gain, and mountain defense. During your turn, the first time you move a character here, you may deal 1 damage to chosen character. If the moved character is a knight, deal 2 damage instead. So this is going to lead us to look at all the Knight 7 Dwarves, who I absolutely adore. But before we look at them, let's very quickly look at our other characters in the game who are Knights by Dreamborn. Dreamborn hasn't finished putting all of the set 5 cards in, so there might be a couple missing. Well, obviously you can't, the 7 Dwarves aren't here, and there might be others missing. But there's the Cinderellas, these 2 drops from Rise of the Floodborn that are Knights. This Anna from Sapphire, this new Donald Duck that we're getting in Ruby, obviously the Cinderella Stout-Hearted, and a new Arthur that we're getting that we'll be talking about in this video, and of course Goofy Knight for a Day. but we're getting a bunch more knights with the new Seven Dwarves cards. Now, I just want to make a point of saying, when these were all released together, these Seven Dwarves and Snow White as knights, and it just made me fall in love. Like, it's going to be cheesy as heck, but deal with it. It made me just fall in love with Lorcana all over again. Like, there's just something so sweet about these, like, such classic characters, and, like, it was cool seeing them introduced to the game in Rise of the Floodborn. I'm pretty sure it was set 2 they came in their classic Storyborn forms. But yeah, just seeing these depictions of them, I just think they're all so sweet. And yeah, some really, again, similar to their previous Seven Dwarves, the Amber ones, all with really cool effects that interact with each other well. So we've just looked at the mine, which is their location, and I'm going to start off with Grumpy, who I think is one of the more interesting ones, at least concerning playing them as a group. So yeah, we've got 3-cost Inkable Grumpy Skeptical Knight, 3/1 quest for 1, and 2 abilities. We've got Boon of Resilience. While one of your knight characters is at a location, that character gains resist +2. So that's it. Like, this will blanket all of your knights at a location. You don't just pick one. It's just, if you've got another knight at a location, it gets resist 1. Grumpy doesn't get it himself, but if you've got 2 Grumpies down and they're both at a location, then they will give it to each other. And of course, these would stack as well. Multiple Grumpies, like, not to each other, but like if you've got a whole board with multiple Grumpies, similar to like having multiple Cogsworth. And we've also got Burst of Speed. During your turn, this character gains Evasive, which is very nice to have, especially with that 3 strength to be an evasive answer to things. But yeah, this Seven Dwarves mine, we come back to it a moment. So yeah, 2 to move there is a lot. But if you think of it in the respect of, okay, if on 4, we're going to pay 2 to put this down, and then we're going to pay 2 to move a knight here who we've already put on the board between turns 1 to 3, then that in itself is already really strong. Just like doing 2 damage and potentially being able to do it every turn, you do have to have a knight that you can move to the Seven Dwarves mine. And worth mentioning again, the location rule: if you've only got 1 Seven Dwarves mine on the board and a character there, you can't leave the mine, and you can't just say, oh, I move to it again, although I'm already there. You would need to have 2 locations down and move between them. You can't leave locations unless you're moving to a location, or unless the location is, of course, banished. But yeah, if you've got more of a... But yeah, if you've got 2 of these down, then of course you could move between the 2. But if you've only got 1, then it would require you to have more knights that you can then put down and move to this location. But just the potential to be able to do 2 damage every turn, I think, is super strong. 6 willpower. Obviously, it falls to Maui, but only being I was going to say only being a 2-drop, you should get a few turns out of it, but I'm implying we should put it down on 4. You could probably put it down on 2, that's fine. I just don't want it taking damage before we can get our combo off, which in my mind is that you put down a knight on turns 1 or 2, one of the Seven Dwarves, and on 3 you put down the Grumpy, so that on 4 you can go Seven Dwarves mine, and we have Sleepy, Sluggish Knight, 2-cost Inkable, 0/4, quest for 1, and Bodyguard. So we put this down on 2, Grumpy on 3, and then on 4 we put down the location and move Sleepy to it. Or you could do it the other way around. You could put the location down on 2, and on 4 put down Sleepy and move him to the location. Then you're immediately doing 2 damage, and now this Sleepy with 4 willpower has resist 2 on top of him as well, and he's a Bodyguard, protecting maybe your turn 1 aggro card. I'm not suggesting this is a meta-breaking curve or anything that's massively overpowered, but I think as a fun deck, it's really good, and it's nice to see. I think with more Seven Dwarves cards, the more we get, they'll interact in more and more interesting ways that I think we will find a way to break them. Let's look at some more. We've got Happy, Lively Knight, 1-cost Inkable, 2/1, quest for 1, and Burst of Speed, which is also on Grumpy, gaining evasive during your turn. But yeah, this is just your 1-drop Seven Dwarf, which is really cool, to have a cheap one that we could be moving to the Seven Dwarves mine to be doing damage, and of course having the evasive during your turn and hitting for 2. It's been relevant before with Diablo. Will Diablo continue to be a prevalent threat? If he is, this is an answer for it. If not, I'm sure a time will come in the future where something really good has evasive and 2 willpower, and it will be needed again. So yeah, a great addition. We've also got Dopey, Knight Apprentice, 3-cost Inkable, 2/3, quest for 1, and Stronger Together. When you play this character, if you have if you have another knight character in play, you may deal 1 damage to chosen character or location. 1 ping damage on play just for having another dwarf down is not insignificant. So yeah, if you were going to build this 7 dwarf deck the best that it could be, I imagine this is what a piece that you could probably find room for. Now we've got Sneezy, Noisy Knight, 4-cost inkable, 3/4 quest for 1, and Headwind. When you play this character, chosen knight character gets Challenger 2 this turn. So this is okay. If you decided to pair with Amethyst, then you would probably normally still prioritize Crab. Again, this is a 7 dwarf, so if it's relevant to like combos you've got going, then maybe this is still what you'd go for. I don't feel like it's one of the better 7 dwarf characters, but it could be. Next, we've got Bashful, Adoring Knight, 4-cost inkable, 3/4 quest for 1, and Impress the Princess. While you have a character named Snow White in play, this character gains Bodyguard. Again, I don't think this is one of the better ones. You would probably want to play the Snow White that we're going to look at in a minute. But you're not always going to have her down. I just don't think the ability is consistent enough. And like you're not going to be playing 4 of every 7 dwarf. Even if that's your theme, you're going to try and make it as meta as you can. And instinctively, I feel like this is definitely one of the worst ones. And finally, definitely the standout one among them all is a card that you could play outside of 7 dwarf dedicated decks. Once again, Doc seems to be a bit of a pattern here. The Amber one was the only one of the previous 7 dwarves that saw play. Bashful or Sneezy, the 2-drop saw a bit of play. But yeah, this one is a 2-cost uninkable 1/3 quest for 1, and Drastic Measures. When you play this character, you may discard your hand to draw 2 cards. It's been confirmed you can have no hand and still draw to, like, if this is the last card in your hand, then you just draw 2, and that alone makes this so very strong. It is a fantastic top deck. There's also potential combos here just with like rushing cards into your discard. Again, at the moment we don't have tons of discard interaction, but we gained Revive in Amber from this set, and we had the Underworld from a previous set, and I don't think either of these cards are particularly amazing, but the precedent set, we're going to get more and more, and this is a potential combo piece, or even with items, because there's the Prince John that lets you cheat in an item from the discard. So this is absolutely a combo piece, and it's not going to be me, but someone's going to find a way to break this. But yeah, this is an S tier card, 100%. And to round out our 7 dwarf knights, we have Snow White, Fair-Hearted, 5-cost uninkable, 3/5, quest for 3, and natural leader. This character gains resist 1 for each other knight character you have in play. I am so heartbroken that this card is not either 4 strength or a Floodborn. Shift 3 or 4, whatever you like, because I love this. I just love the card, and I love the idea of this 7 dwarf knight deck being actually decent. And I feel like you could have made this 4 strength or made it a Floodborn, and you could have actually given this deck a little bit of legs. But unfortunately, she just falls to Medusa, and like, I know that's such a boring review sentence. I do understand, but it's just true. It just it stops something like this from ever reaching the potential I feel like it could have, which is heartbreaking. Because yeah, obviously the idea is you flood the field, and with lots of dwarves, and this could have resist 2, 3, 4, lots of dwarf knights, I mean. And yeah, this could really pop off. So yeah, I really like this card, but unfortunately it's just not going to be good enough. It'll be good in a fun deck. But yeah, bit heartbroken over it really. I really want them to be good. Worth noting, there is an Amber Snow White from Rise of the Floodborn, whose ability is, while she's on the board, you pay 1 less ink for all of your dwarf characters. So you would most likely play Steel Amber to have access to that, because that's going to really enable you to extend your field a lot. And thankfully in Amber you get access to bare necessities, so you can check the grab swords and be prepared. So yeah, definitely a fun deck that I'm looking forward to trying out. Next up, we've got Mickey Mouse, Food Fight Defender, 1-drop, inkable, 1/2, quest for 1, and resist 1. A really unique stat line that I don't think we've had this before on a Lorcana card. And yeah, this is cool, and you might think, well, what's the benefit of playing this over a 1/3, other than the name, obviously. Obviously, that's one of the big parts of the review. This is a 1-drop Mickey Mouse for our Sorcerer Mickey, the steel one, the 5 cost, but shift for 3. This is now our cheapest Mickey to shift on that, or if we want to shift our Musketeer Mickey, the bodyguard one from Amber, so that's lovely. But outside of that, like, would you run this or would you run a 1/3? It's going to be matchup dependent. Like, if you're against aggro decks with a lot of characters with 1 strength, then you could get a lot more legs out of this. Teeth and Ambitions onto this is pretty cool. Puts it down to 1, and if you had a 1/3, it would also be at 1. And now they're the same card almost, but this one has resist 1. So yeah, there are niche situations, and depending on your deck and like what the plays are, what the meta's looking like from turns 1 to 3. Then there are times where if you want a 1-drop, this could absolutely be your preference over the 1/3. Of course, sometimes you might want the 2 strength, but yeah, it's just good to have a 1-drop Mickey Mouse, and love the art, love the theming, and I like. Just a quick note for the theming in general for this set, the idea of, because I watched an interview on, I think it was the Illuminateers channel with the creative director of Lorcana. I forget his name, which I feel terrible for, but it was a super interesting interview, and they were talking about the idea of challenges not always necessarily meaning that you're having a fight and like striking each other. It's not always violent. Like, a challenge could be a race, an arm wrestling competition, like a multitude, like a knowledge-based, a host of things. And yeah, I really love the theming of this set with like this party and the idea that this food fight is very representative of doing damage, and this card symbolizing that really beautifully with obviously the art and the resist 1. So yeah, nothing to do with the actual mechanics of the game, but something I appreciate. Sticking with the food fight theme, we've got Food Fight. 1-cost uninkable action. Your characters gain exert and pay 1. Deal 1 damage to chosen character this turn. So all your characters get that ability that they can exert, and you have to pay 1. It's for you have to pay 1 for every character that uses it though. And you get to just do 1 ping. It's interesting. Yeah, it's a really unique effect, which makes me look twice, but I think it's far too situational. It's uninkable. It's not good enough. We've got Shield of Arendale, 1-cost inkable item. Deflect. Banish this item. Chosen character gains resist 1 until the start of your next turn. It does not draw a card. It is not a Fortisphere. It's not good enough. Next up, we've got Cronk, Unlicensed Investigator, 2-cost inkable, 1/4, quest for 1, and challenger 1. Great to see Cronk seemingly getting a big part of the narrative in this set. But yeah, this is cool. There's nothing spectacular about the stat line, really. I think I would rather run Eric, so that I can hit for 3. I mean, like, having the walk 4 willpower in some instances is going to be okay, but you still die to Fox. But it's an interesting card because we have a Floodborn, Cronk, Head of Security, 7-cost uninkable, 6/6. Quest for 1, shift 5, and are you on the list during your turn? Whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, you may play a character with cost 5 or less for free. So yeah, that would be our shift target if we want to play this. Unfortunately, I just don't think this is good enough. If you're paying 5 to play this, then you already have the ink to play whatever 5 or less cost character than you're playing. This is help if you are in a situation where on turn 5 it makes sense to just extend, and you have a good enough 4 or 5 cost character to extend with, like maybe you're playing with Amethyst and you have Rabbits or something like that. In some situations this is going to be fine, but I don't think this is good enough with, like, it feels a bit win more, to be honest. It's a bad top. The stat line is nice, but only questing for 1 I don't think is enough. Being uninkable is not good enough. Really love the theming, but I'm sorry, Cronk, it's not your time. Next up, we've got Arthur Wart. Love it. 2-cost inkable, 2/2, quest for 2. Nothing too spectacular here, but once again, we have the Floodborn. Arthur, King Victorious. This art is spectacular. And the the Enchanted for this as well is just... I think this is my favourite collective set of Enchanteds, I think, overall, where, like... I like every single one of them. I think they're all so, even characters that don't really do anything for me, I think they're all so beautiful, and this Arthur one in particular is great, but even this original art. But yeah, 7 cost, uninkable, 3/6, quest for 3, shift 5, and knighted by the king. When you play this character, chosen character gains challenger 2 and resist 2, and can challenge ready characters this turn. This is such a strong ability. So we're a Floodborn. So obviously that 2-drop that we just looked at is going to be our main shift target. If we're with Amethyst, then there's a 3-drop. In Emerald, there's a 4-drop. I think that's in Ruby, we're getting a 1-drop uninkable, so that may be an option. But obviously the 2-drop steel one is the seems the most suitable. The 3 willpower obviously hurts because falls to Medusa, but this is a come into play ability, which is great. And even if it was on quest, it could be potentially saved by the fact that you can shift it. It reminds me of the Fairy Godmother, just this super strong ability. That one also gives Challenger. I think it's Challenger 3 though, and Fairy Godmother returns the character to your hand if it's banished in a challenge. This one's resist 2. Which is really good, but also challenge your ready characters. This seems so strong. I need to work out the place for this. I think this is a card that I think Sapphire Steel and Steel Amber, probably more Sapphire. I think Sapphire Steel and Steel Amber can both start to be built in very different ways to how they've looked the last few sets. Obviously, they've always gained new toys, but the game plan relatively has remained the same. You could argue the biggest difference is when it converted to sort of flute builds and Pride Land builds, but I think a lot has stayed the same over a long period of time. But I think this enables steel decks to go in a slightly different way. I think this ability is so strong. Maybe this is the one of the entire set that I'm overhyping, but I do think this is an S tier card because maybe it's too situational, and it's uninkable. It's a bad top. I've called cards bad for those reasons before, and this does fit that. Like, it's not the best top. I don't know. No, it's not going to be S tier, is it? Like, I think it's an A tier card. Like, there's definitely a place for this. I don't know. I'm actually talking myself out of how much I'm liking this card now, because I'm just imagining drawing it when you. Maybe it's just, again, a bit of a win more card. But yeah, you could have like a stalemate going on, and this like allowing you to interact with their non-exerted characters. And the fact that you've got resist 2 means you're probably making trades. Yeah, I do like this. It probably goes better with blue so that you can at least fishbone it if you need to. But yeah, I do really like this, and I do think it will see some play. Next up, we've got Duck for Cover, 2 cost inkable, chosen character gains resist 1 and evasive this turn. Nice niche effect in certain situations, but you're not consistently going to get value from this enough, and it's not good enough. Next we have Simba, Lost Prince, 3 cost inkable, 2/4, quest for 1, and face the past. During your turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, you may draw a card. Seems far too slow, only has 2 strength. We might have looked at it with a bit more interest because we have this Floodborn Simba, but there is already the 1-drop Simba, Future King, from set 1, so I feel like that would probably be enough. So I don't see that 3-drop seeing much play. But this Floodborn Simba is pretty interesting. We've got Simba, son of Mufasa. Look at him. Look at my boy, Raw. Look at his getup. Love it. 6 cost inkable, 3/5, quest for 1. Shift 4, an impressive Raw. When you play this character, banish chosen location or item. So that's a really strong effect. The thing is, I think that the Steel has ways to do it better, and if it's paired with Sapphire, then it's got other ways of doing it better. The 2-cost action, the name of which I still don't know off the top of my head, but also the Kuzco. This is a really strong ability, but I just think Steel, and especially if it's paired with Sapphire, just has ways of doing this better. Maybe maybe Steel Amber potentially would go down this route. Would it want to run this instead of Rise of the Titans? Because the 1-drop Simba isn't a bad card for them to run as a 1-drop just to help them get through the deck, although they would probably normally prioritize the Cinderella Ballroom Sensation. But yeah, maybe Steel Amber is where I could see this before Sapphire Steel, unless in the future it becomes more relevant to be singing a 6-cost song on turn 4, because that's what this enables. So that alone, all it's going to take is the right 6-cost song, and this will see more play. But right off the bat, probably not. Next up, we've got Pete, wrestling champ. You know your boy loves a bit of wrestling, so I got a soft spot for this villain here. 3-cost uninkable, 1/3, quest for 1, and repeat. Repeat. Exert. Whoa! Reveal the top card of your deck if it's a character named Pete. You may play it for free. I'm delirious. It's nearly midnight. I've lost the plot, guys. It's hot. You can see I'm all red. But I'm going to get through this. Hit the like button for your boy. Repeat. So yeah, if we can get a Pete tribal deck, then this will be a part of it. Absolutely. Well, obviously, we've already got the Emerald one. Oh mate, I've lost it. We've got the Emerald one. There is one in Ruby that we're getting, which is kind of interesting because it has a come into play banish effect if you have another Pete in play. And there is another Pete that we're going to look at next. But yeah, if Pete Tribal ever becomes a thing, then as I said, this will be part of it. And now we have Pete, Games Referee, 3-cost inkable, 3/3, quest for 1, and blow the whistle. When you play this character, opponents can't play actions until the start of your next turn. This, I think everyone is in agreement, is the best card in the set. This is such a powerful ability. Songs also count as actions. Being able to say, no, you don't get to play B-Prep, you don't get to play Grab Your Sword, you don't get to play Whole New World, you don't get to play Zeus, you don't get to play B-King Undisputed, and a whole host of other really important action cards. Thankfully, I think Sapphire decks will keep this in check to a degree, because while they do utilize actions, they can at least still use their items, and they will still be able to stand up to this. But this will absolutely shut down some Ruby Amethyst decks if they need to be prep, if that's their comeback or be king. This just saying no, you don't get to. I'm putting this down and I'm stopping you from be prepping, from be kinging. That's absolutely insane. Stopping the Steel Song decks from playing any of their songs. This is crazy. And if you play this with Amethyst and you bounce this back to your hand, replaying this over and over again, you can just lock your opponent out of the game. This is the best card in the set. Alright, next up we've got When Will My Life Begin? I do like this song. I'm a big fan of Tangled. 3-cost inkable song. Chosen character can't challenge during their next turn. Draw a card. Yeah, it's cool. Again, whenever it draws a card, then that always redeems a card to a degree. And the fact that it's a song, there could be synergy there with anything that benefits from song playing, like flutes or the new Alana Dale. But the ability itself, I think, is too situational, and it's just not worth the include. Next up, we've got Stitch, Team Underdog, 4-cost uninkable, 1/4, quest for 1, and heave ho. When you play this character, you may deal 2 damage to chosen character. This is a really strong ability, and to have it on a body is cool, but I think 4-cost uninkable, only questing for 1, I think this hurts this too much. If this was a little cheat, if this was inkable, if this was questing for 2, or if this was only a 3-drop, then I think this would be a heck of a ton better, but unfortunately, I think those 3 negatives make this a non-include. Next up, we've got Royal Guard, 4-cost inkable, 1/7, quest for 1. Hey, I've been turned into a cow. Can I go home? You're excused. Anyone else? No, we're good. No, we're good. Love it. It's a bad card, but I love it. Next up, we've got Easa, Unjustly Treated. Again, like all these arts that are them like in the line outside the club trying to get in. I love it. What do you mean not on the list? I told you always put me on the list. I don't have a good Easa voice. 4 cost uninkable, 1/4 quest for 2, and I'm warning you. During your turn, whenever one of your characters banishes a character in a challenge, you may deal 1 damage to the chosen character. Yeah, I mean, like, if you've already got a character on board and they have an exerted character, you put this down, you banish the character, you get this off straight away, but it's too situational. They might not even have another character. It's uninkable. Questing for 2 is okay, but I don't think it's good enough. But I think it's our only steel Yzma, and I've got a funny feeling that we're going to get a really good steel Floodborn, and we're going to end up having to play this at some point, but I don't think it's good. Next up, we've got Plate Armor, 4 cost uninkable item and well-crafted. Exert, chosen character gains resist 2 into the start of your next turn. So we had Mouse Armor before, which is 2 cost uninkable, resist 1 into the start of your next turn. How far does this go? We get the 6 drop next, then we get the 8 drop. Where does it end? I bet it's Musketeer Armor. I bet that's somewhere. I'm calling it now. We're going to get Musketeer Armor somewhere on that list. It'll be a 6 drop, resist 3, or an 8 drop, resist 4, something like that. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a card like this is going to be really good against Ursula in Deep Trouble, and hopefully future Illumineers quests, which we've got to get more right. In meta, I'm not so convinced. It's one of those higher cost items that maybe we can cheese out. With the collection of items and like things that we've got that say like play items cheaper or play them for free. So maybe we can cheese this out, but it's still an uninkable. I don't think it's considered, like, again, it feels a bit win more. Yeah, not a fan. Next up, we've got Hey Protective Rooster. Shout out to Ben at Ravensburger UK. I know he loves this one. 5 cost inkable, 4/5, quest for 2, and bodyguard. So you would immediately compare this with... So I compare it with Amber Bodyguards because I feel like that's generally where you play your bodyguards in a Steel Amber deck. And yeah, you can compare this with Maximus, who is also the 4/5 bodyguard. He has support, but this is quest for 2. Sometimes support is going to be your preference, and there are worlds where you might play that, but I think the majority of the time you would opt for this 2 willpower. However, there's also Chen Po, who is a 4/7 stat line, so he's out of Medusa and he's out of a Lorcan Zeus, and I think in that instance, you would probably go for that over this questing for 2. So unfortunately, I think he's outclassed, but incredible artwork. They never miss. Who's the boat snack now? This should have traded with Maui. This should absolutely trade with Maui. So like that would complete this. But yeah, I like it, but I think you play Chenpo. Next up, Tug of War, 5 cost inkable, action, and you choose one. You either do 1 damage to all opposing characters without evasive, or 3 to all opposing characters with evasive. Hey, if the meta ever takes a shape where the best deck in format is just like spreading multiple evasive characters that have 3 willpower or less, then this comes into format. Other than that, probably not. I mean, like some last format people were playing, is it Avalanche? The one that does 1 damage to everything and banishes a location, but it's uninkable. And I think that's a 4 drop, actually. Maybe people would have played this instead, like for the sake of Bucky. Hopefully we don't have something like Bucky again that we need to play something like this. It's not a good card, so yeah, it's not good. We'll come back to Jafar. We've got Hector here, 7 cost uninkable, 7/10 quest for 3. He's a big boy, stats are really nice, but 7 cost uninkable, unlikely. And now we've got Namari, Resolute Daughter, 9 cost uninkable, 5/5. Quest for 3, resist 3, and I don't have any other choice. For each opposing character that was banished in a challenge this turn, you pay 2 less to play this character. Now the 5/5, quest for 3, and resist 3 is all super good. Obviously you need to like really protect yourself against like Tremaine and Bee King, or even just Maleficent Dragon. But if you can get this down early enough. But the thing is, like, the red-blue decks, they can get Maleficent Dragon online by 6 anyway with their ramp, or by 7. So I just think there are too many answers to this is the problem, and this ability to play it 2 less for each opposing character that was banished in the challenge, I think it's just a bit too situational to be consistently worth it. Something that I think is interesting about this one, I was talking about the Badanon earlier. This is the Namari that I was talking about, that on turn 5 we could cheat it out with the Badanon. So maybe that's its place. But I don't know. I don't think it's going to be consistent enough that you're going to only pay 5 for this. And I think you need to be only paying 5 for this to ever get much value. And I just don't think that's going to happen often enough. And we finish up with one of my favourite cards in the set. We have Jafar, Tyrannical Hypnotist. Absolutely adore this art. If you've been a fan of the channel a while, you know that while Ratagun is my main man, Jafar and Scar are right there in second place, neck and neck. Loves them. I've loved, and to be honest, I think there's been like most of my favourite arts have been Jafar cards, and this is definitely up there. But I've seen the Enchanted Scar now, so I can't go back. But this is beautiful. 6 cost Inkable, 0/7, quest for 2, Challenger 7, Challenger 7, and Intimidating Gaze. Opposing characters with cost 4 or less can't challenge. No one will keep me from the broken crown. Now, when I first looked at this card, I was just like, dice to Medusa, dice to Brawl. But the more I thought about it, the more I think it's probably going to end up seeing play. And I think there's a strong chance it either replaces or is played in addition to the Tinkerbell slot. Whether that's in Emerald Steel, because that deck doesn't tend to have a lot of big beat sticks that can contest the board, which is the role that Tinkerbell normally fills for them. They don't shift it; they just play it on 6. But that's how they stabilize. And don't get me wrong, like in some situations, Tink is going to be better. Obviously, the one spread damage as soon as you play her, and the 2 extra damage whenever you banish something, it can really check boards. And I think that's all really good. But I think this card offers so much. The Challenger 7 is insane. You are one-shotting pretty much everything in meta. I think the main thing with 7 willpower that this can deal with now is the Simba, the 7 cost one that Steel has been playing. Again, that's not a hugely common card, but we didn't have a way to one-shot that before. Now we do. It's a shame that this can't get over Tamatoa, but you can't have everything. But besides that, it deals with everything. It deals with the castle, which is absolutely huge. And quest for 2, and the Intimidating Gaze. Opposing characters with cost 4 or less can't challenge. That's not can't challenge this character, it's just can't challenge. So they can't deal with this with foxes, with smees, snakes, a whole host of things can't be going into this, and it's only got 0 strength, it's like Challenger 7, so things can go into this safely, but if cost 4 or less, no they can't. Maui doesn't one-shot him, which I also think is huge. So while yes, he is very susceptible to Medusa and Brawl, I think you can bait some of those out with some of the other cards that you're playing in Steel and whatever your other ink combination is. They can't always have it. And yeah, I think this is an option to put down as a turn 6 drop and just demand an answer is still really big. There are a lot of cards that I've said are bad because they just get Medusa'd or they get Brawled. But I think what this card offers is enough that it still makes it a good card, and it's inkable to boot. So yeah, I'm gonna call this an S tier card, and I'm gonna put my flag in the ground and say we'll see play. And that is it for all the Steel cards that's it for all the Steel cards coming in Shimmering Skies. So yeah, some really interesting ones. A 1-drop Mickey is super nice. As I said, just said, this Jafar I think is really good. The 7 Dwarves, I don't think they're going to be ultra competitive, but I'm really looking forward to trying them out in a fun deck. Although I think the Doc is going to be really good, and it's just going to get better and better as time goes on and be a combo enabler. I think the Arthur has potential, especially since we got a cheap Floodborn target, and this Pete is absolutely the best card in Shimmering Skies. But what do you think of all the cards that I've discussed? What have I overhyped? What have I underhyped? What are you looking forward to playtesting when set 5 drops? But that's going to be it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe for all things Lorcana. Hit that like button to show your support, and we'll see you soon.